asleep amidst the trees. Bats all a swaying in the breeze. But one soul lies anxious, wide awake.
Hello everyone, my name is Eugene and today I'm gonna review my favorite story-driven game, The Witcher 3. I know I'm a little bit late, but I only just recently played it this year, and if you're like me, or you would like to simply experience a nostalgic trip, this video is for you. Developed by CD Projekt Red, The Witcher 3 is not just a game, it's an immersive experience. Set in a fictional fantasy world based on Slavic mythology, teeming with life, danger and political intrigue. It's the culmination of years of passion, dedication and meticulous attention to detail. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's talk a little about the world. The Witcher is set on a landmass referred to as the continent. It is on the northern hemisphere of a fictional planet known as the world. The continent is vast and varied, from the bustling cities of Novigrad and Oxenford to the war-torn villages of Velen. Each location feels alive, with its own unique inhabitants, quests and stories to uncover. You can spend hours upon hours just exploring different locations. The world is huge and pretty much everything you see in the distance can be explored. Just grab your horse named Roach and off you go. Of course, there is fast travel available, so you don't have to spend much time going from point A to point B when doing quests, but I feel like it's one of those games that could just as easily do without fast travel because of how beautiful and atmospheric the scenery around is. Oftentimes I would be mesmerized just by the look of the night sky or the forestry areas. It is probably the most gorgeously set world I've ever experienced in a video game. Now let's talk about the gameplay and combat system. Unfortunately, this is where the game falls a little short. The combat system gets repetitive very fast, even though you can experiment with different styles of combat and spells. You can always try different builds, but the fact of the matter is, once you learn how to spam Alt to sidestep and space to dodge, it becomes rather old. What makes it interesting though is the fact that there is a big variety of monsters lurking around the world, and you can also learn about them from this in-game book called Bestiary, which gives a comprehensive description of each defeated or learned about monster and different strats of how to fight them more effectively, using different signs, bombs or oils. Now, my first playthrough I played it on Death March, as I prefer the hardest difficulties right away, and it was actually challenging to the point where a mere werewolf took me some time as I was under-leveled, and other times I actually had to go back and level up a little bit more to tackle hard mini-bosses. In my opinion, you can easily call The Witcher 3 a Souls-like because of the fact that you have to level up your character and not to struggle on your path, and that's what can potentially make The Witcher 3 a challenging and oftentimes near impossible experience. When I first played through the original story, I barely used any signs, which are Geralt's own spells, or potions or upgrades, and solely relied on Quinn, which is basically a protective shield sign. It was not meant to be played like that, that is why it made it extra hard. Once again, of course, you don't have to play it on the hardest. There are easier difficulties available for a casual playthrough if you just want to enjoy the story. So yes, even though the combat system leaves a lot to be desired, you can still make it challenging and interesting if you go around trying different builds, as I started doing much later into The Witcher on my playthrough. Another little downside is the bugs. I even made some video compilations of The Witcher bugs and joked about it being the Glitcher 3 wild bugs. Just as the world, the bugs are vast, but they are not game-breaking by any means. In fact, some of those bugs and glitches made my experience more fun. They certainly spiced up the game, and as I've been told, the glitches had only been introduced with the release of the next-gen update. So yeah, it can get pretty glitchy, but at least when the game crashes, you get this interesting report window box saying something along the lines of, "Please send this report to help us hunt down a solution." So that's pretty inventive and a very cool pun. Now let's talk about the plot, and that's what truly sets The Witcher 3 apart. It's not the gameplay or combat system, it's its narrative depth. I simply can't overstate this. It's a masterpiece of storytelling. As Geralt of Rivia, a renowned monster hunter, players embark on a quest to find Geralt's adopted daughter, Ciri, while also navigating political intrigue, moral dilemmas, and personal vendettas. Choice is at the heart of The Witcher 3. In fact, I will go as far as to say that it's probably one of the only choices matter games where choices actually matter, not just in the moment of making a choice, but till the very end. Every decision you make, whether in combat or conversation, has far-reaching consequences that ripple throughout the game world. And what set The Witcher 3 apart from me personally was the fact that most of the choices you can make in the game closely align with my personal values. Not every game can do that to that extent. That's why it made me feel like I was at the helm of the plot. And that just goes to show, you simply don't play The Witcher, you live it. And by the way, as far as the story and The Witcher 3 being the third installment, you don't really have to play the previous parts to enjoy it, though it would definitely help you to understand the characters a little bit more. I myself actually played The Witcher 3 prior to the previous parts, and The Witcher 3 was actually the reason why I played the previous parts, just to understand the character's background a little bit more. And that's perhaps where the game's greatest strength lies, in its characters. From the hot-headed sorceress Yennefer to the charismatic bard Dandelion, each character is expertly crafted, with their own motivation, flaws, and quirks. They just feel so real and relatable. It's not hard to fall in love with at least one of them and find some similar personalities to match from the real life. So yes, the characters are incredibly written and the dialogues feel real and very enjoyable to listen to. Of course, no discussion of The Witcher 3 gameplay would be complete without mentioning its mini-game called Gwent. It's a deck building card game built right into The Witcher 3. Gwent is all about strategy and having the right cards. You can play Gwent with almost every major NPC in the game, wagering money or even winning their legendary cards to add to your collection. And that's how for the most part you build your deck, by playing Gwent against others in the world. Think of it as a whole different game inside an already expansive game. In fact, it's so huge that there is a standalone game called Gwent and a real-life board game of the same name. Also a few other Witcher games based on it. And perhaps it deserves a more comprehensive review of its own because, as I said, it plays like a well-made standalone game where your addiction can get the best of you in an endless gameplay loop. So that's pretty much it about the gameplay and the storyline. Of course there are more features to experience, but experience you must them yourself. Next thing I want to mention is the soundtrack. Complementing its beautiful storytelling and the visuals is a hauntingly beautiful soundtrack. Composed by Marcin, and I'm not sure I can say his last name, but I can try. Bzibilevich. I probably totally butchered it and I'm sorry. Which sets the mood for each scene and enhances the emotional impact of key moments. It's very hard not to pay attention to the songs being played as you play. Most of them are earwormy. Last but not least, I want to talk about replayability. With multiple endings, branching storylines, and countless side quests, The Witcher 3 offers endless replay value. Just to give you an example of my playtime, I spent roughly 90 hours completing the game with both of its expansions. The main story took me around 50 hours, and for the most part, I was just focusing on the main story, dismissing most of the side quests, only the ones that found me randomly. And yes, sometimes side quests just find you without you trying to look for them in The Witcher 3, which sets it apart from many other games. But I am sure if you focus on everything in a game, you could well sink over hundreds of hours just doing the story. Then the game's got 2 expansion packs, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, which further extend the adventure, introducing new characters, locations, and quests that rival the main game in scope and quality. In fact, they feel like separate games, especially Blood and Wine, which is set in this France/Italy inspired duchy Tucson, arguably the most gorgeous location in The Witcher, filled with its own side quests and a whole different storyline. So whether embarking on a new playthrough or diving into the expansions, there's always something new to discover in the world of The Witcher 3. So the verdict is, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is not just a game, It's a masterpiece, almost like a movie where you get to craft your own story, with its breathtaking visuals, immersive world, gripping narrative, and memorable characters. It's a journey that will stay with you long after the credits roll. Whether you're a fan of RPGs or simply appreciate great storytelling, The Witcher 3 is an experience not to be missed. And to answer the question, is The Witcher 3 still good in 2024? To that I'll say
Yes?
in fact, I only just recently played it this year, and it became my favorite story. And I think it's even more relevant now since The Witcher 4 is being in development, so perhaps it's high time to catch up on the franchise. So yeah guys, if you like this video and would like to see more reviews or other gaming content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And as always, stay tuned, stay strong, see you on the next one.